Everybody, we're back. What up?
Hey.
You.
It's been a long time.
Legabaschi.
Yeah. It's been too long.
Yeah. That was my fault, though. That was my fault.
Yes, it was. No, I'm just kidding. No. But let's clear the air here. There's someone missing. Yep. So if you're friends with Yehola on Facebook or anything,
block him. No, I'm just kidding.
Delete him, unfriend him.
Yeah.
He turned scout on us.
Yeah.
No, he got a new job is what he told everybody on his Facebook, and he moved. I just let him know he's still part of the crew if he wants to come through sometime, but it's such a long drive that it's all the way in California. No, I'm just kidding. He could fly in. No.
All the way in Glenpool. No.
He's on the council now.
Moved to Kiefer. No. No, but yeah, he wants to come through sometime, but he's still part of the crew. He's just going through the process of everything that comes with changing your career, I guess.
Yeah.
And so right here we got his favorite drink and some deuces on top of that drink.
Yeah. He deuced
signaling
out.
He's deuced out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, spirit drink, I guess we'll call this.
I'm going to pour a little out at the end of this show.
Pour it on his chair.
Well, we definitely want to wish him the best of luck wherever he's at, and everything that he does. It's been an honor to work with him on this podcast and on some of the shows and stuff like that. He was very knowledgeable on things. I also know he has his own, his little show.
Oh,
Can't
his
remember.
own podcast.
Yeah, he's got his own show.
I can't remember what it's called.
War Cry podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you guys get a chance, you get lonesome for him, check it out. I know he goes over some pretty good, tough topics. Some topics, he goes over is, really detailed. So, he's just doing a good job and he's going forward. So we definitely want to give him a shout out for that. We always want to support youth and the things that they do. Mado.
Yeah, Mado. Yep. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Yep, Yehola. And everybody go follow him on TikTok. I believe it's at One Man Bandman. Yeah. 918.
918, wasn't it? Yeah, 918.
Make sure to follow him. He goes live. And his podcast, War Cry Podcast, available everywhere. Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, go follow him. Wasn't there something else that he told to follow? It's not Instagram.
His uncle, he's always plugging his
uncle.
Yeah. John Tiger.
John Tiger. Go follow him. John Tiger Art.
Yeah, from you follow.
Yes. So, shout out to Yehola, but he may be on some episodes soon. I don't know. It's up in the air. He's like Sting from WCW.
I always see him in the rafters right there like that, boy.
Looking down
at our events.
Looking mad, like, dang those guys.
Got that stink face.
Dang, just shaking his head. God. The Tyler's walking around going like that.
I was thinking like Conor McGregor.
Not sure. Smash Mouth song. Somebody once told me.
All Star.
All Star, that's it. Yeah.
Dang, Russell just making up names over there.
I know. Now I'm sad we didn't get to do the Yahola roast.
Yeah.
So
We still can. No,
yeah,
he's not here to fight. No. I'm just kidding.
So let me start it off. No, I'm just kidding.
it all started with Bigfoot's Wild Weekend.
Man.
He downloaded that. He's never been right since.
Man. Hey Russell, can you describe these
Oh man.
these what do we call it? Action figures? What do we call it?
Yeah. So these are
What's just that one?
the white one is Wendigo, and then the other one is Sasquatch, Bigfoot. That one I found at the thrift store. It was just sitting there in the case, and I thought I should free him, so I brought him home. But I have no idea what that one's from. But these two, Wendigo and Wendigo and Sasquatch are from Marvel, like the toy line, and they actually come with action figures to where you can build a figure. So they're build-a-figure figures, and I just bought them as built already. I didn't go the route of buying every single figure because some of those are whack, but I just didn't want to go through all those, buy them, open them just for that. So nowadays, like, there's a lot of Build-A-Figure toys. Even DC's doing it now, but I was surprised they had Sasquatch and like the Wendigo. So, do you know the history about those? Like in Marvel, Tyler?
I do not. Yeah, I do not.
I don't know. I think Bigfoot might be like, I don't think he's a villain. I don't think.
I hope not.
I'm pretty sure Wendigo maybe. He just looks
He
mad.
looks like a villain.
Yeah, he looks mad.
This little guy though, I think he's a Cheyenne dog soldier, I think.
Really?
But if you guys, listeners out there that know this regalia, please let us know to educate us, because we don't know everything either. So we're upfront and honest.
Yeah.
So, again, if you guys know about this figures, regalia, what it's got on. But I believe that's what it is. So, but, again, I'm probably wrong. So, I think these are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty
Just
awesome.
shout out to Vintage Toy Mall in BA.
Yes. So, I didn't find these at Vintage Toy Mall, but shout out to them here in BA. They do have a couple Bigfoot figures there. They have the old school Marvel Legends one, and then do have another Build-A-Figure. I was almost gonna buy them, but then I was like, damn, then I have three. But but I mean, I think they're still there. You could go check them out. But shout out to them because they heard about the podcast, the Unsolved Mystery one. So it's really cool to go in there and just, they always have good customer service, and they just have a lot of great vintage toys there that you can just spend like a few hours in.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy going there just to look around, even though I've seen like some of the stuff that they already have. But yeah, they have one at Jinx as well.
Yeah, that's like for the high dollar stuff. I think
yeah.
like the real collectibles. And every time the wife chases me out of the house, that's where I go. That's my getaway. I always used to go get a cookie. And then like sit in the parking lot and eat a cookie. And then my daughter was like, "Those are your sad cookies." I was like, "Well, I have to not be so sad, sit in the parking lot and eat a cookie." So now I'm gonna eat a cookie and I'm gonna go to the Vintage Toy Mall and buy some stuff. So when the wife and I are fussing, that's my getaway. It's a good one. It's a good getaway. And I'm there a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
You ever been there, Chris?
I've never been there. I'll have to go, I guess. Check it out.
Go check it out. Buy the whole store.
I know.
Yeah.
Make my wish list for all my nieces and nephews out there that might want to get me something. I'll just
Pointing at those.
ah,
Hint, hint.
hint,
Wink, wink.
ah. But I was telling these guys earlier about a board game. Dang, I forgot the name of it.
The Real Truth.
Yeah.
The Real Truth. If you guys are wanting to do something paranormal game, that Real Truth game is one of the top games, I think, out there. Has all the mythology entities in there. You know, you got Bigfoot, Wendigo, you got devils, you got all kind of black shadows, a top hat character. You got, man, all even some that I've never even heard of. But it also gives you the history of some of those things too. So I think it's a pretty cool game. So, you know, if you guys are out there looking to do something, you know, definitely go check that game out. It's pretty exciting, pretty fun. And like I said, if you like paranormal stuff, you know, it really goes in details on those cards about each entity. So I said, dang, that's pretty cool. So I'd like to try to maybe later on maybe have an episode to demonstrate that game, because to me it keeps it real. You know, you go and try to hunt these things, and you know, sometimes you get dealt with, you know, looking for these things, and that's the cool thing about that game, you know. So again, you guys out there looking to do something over the weekend, go get that game. I think, would you say it was like $25?
Yeah,
or something?
25 on Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah, that'd be good. Good game.
Yeah, I've never heard of that game until you brought it. Or you didn't even bring it. You showed us a picture, but I'm going to have to check out some videos on it to see like the gameplay on it, because I'm down to play. I think that'd be fun to do it right here for people to see. And I mean, just the way you're describing it, like you battle these entities or cryptids, and then what you keep them, and it's like however many you get to keep ends up being the winner.
Yeah.
And so that sounds really cool. I was gonna show you too. There's a PC game on. It's called Steam. It's like where everybody gets their games from. But there's one called Bigfoot, I believe, and it's like it's a 4-person multiplayer. And they go out in the woods and they hunt Bigfoot.
Awesome.
And he's like really ginormous and like causes havoc. And so you're just running around and you're collecting like supplies like flashlights and maps and all these other things and like flare guns and guns. And then you're just running around this like wooded area. And in the daytime, I think that's when Bigfoot kind of rests. And in the nighttime, you're walking around with flashlights and everything. And then he just comes out of nowhere and he starts like trying to attack you and kill you. And you got to survive Bigfoot. And then also, I think like the whole point is maybe, I don't think it's to kill him, but to maybe capture him. I think I was watching my friend play it, and they were walking around at night, and Bigfoot just pops out, and he howls too, like to let you know he's coming.
And this is a board game?
No, it's a online game, PC game for video game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh. So you play like on a computer?
Yeah. It's not on console yet because I looked for it. I was wanting to play it, but they have PC games and it's available on Steam. So if anybody has a PC, I would say go check out the Bigfoot game and let us know more about it. The guy I was watching, Castro, he was playing it for the first time and he's getting all scared. He's like, he's screaming around.
Dang, that'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
We need to demonstrate that one on this show too. So
if it ever comes to PC, if the makers of that are listening, put it on console and we could all play it. We'd probably it could take 1 to 4 players, so we could all 3 play it.
That's
just
awesome.
Run around looking for Bigfoot.
man, I wonder if they give you that perspective of the Bigfoot looking for you guys.
They do. So I
Play
think,
as Bigfoot.
I think like I don't know if it is, I don't know if it isn't, but have you heard of that Friday the 13th game?
Yes.
So that game, you could be like a counselor and you're trying to like survive Jason, or you could be Jason. And on this one too, this Bigfoot game, you can actually be Bigfoot and you could hunt like the hunters. And you could, yeah.
That's awesome.
But I didn't get to see that gameplay because I got tired, and he streams like late at night, and they were playing this game and they're like, as soon as we die, I'm going to be Bigfoot. And then they just went on forever, and I was like, I'm going to go to bed. So I didn't get to see them play as Bigfoot, but they said like you could play Bigfoot. And there's also different levels. Like there's a wooded one, so it kind of looks like brownish like him. And then there's like a snowy area, so it's an actual Yeti.
Yeah.
With the white fur and everything. So I want to play it so bad, but you guys got to put it on console.
Yeah.
Quit hating.
Maybe if all the listeners go and do I don't know what you
A
call it.
petition.
Yeah,
Petition to have 'em
campaign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah, to have it put on there. Maybe we'll see that soon.
Yep. You all do that for us. Say,
Yeah.
call them,
Write them.
write them,
Tell them
tell them in an
unsolved
angry way.
mysteries. Demand. Not asking.
Dang. While you guys are mentioning Bigfoot, I was talking earlier that there's a new. Well, I don't think it's new. I think it's kind of old. Movie I saw the other day. It's called Dawn of the Beast. If you guys like real action movies, I'm talking about real action, fighting, kung fu, all kinds of crazy fight scenes, you'll want to watch this movie. Because Bigfoot, he represents in this movie. He's a straight up warrior in this movie. So, again, it's another warrior type Bigfoot movie. You guys are hungry, looking for another Bigfoot movie out there. That's the one to watch. And I think you guys said it's free on what?
It's on YouTube. Don't know how long it'll be now, but if you type up Dawn of the Beast, there's two that actually pop up, but the first one is 1080p and it's a great visuals on it. It's not all pixelated or whatever, so it's a great upload of whoever did that. And we're kind of watching like a little bit of it and got to see some I guess Wendigo's like gang.
Minions.
Yeah, his minions is a better word.
Goons.
And the trailer, it's a real nice trailer. You should watch the trailer, but I would say just go into it watching it. But would you say it's better than Primal Rage?
Whoa.
I will definitely say it's up there. I mean, it's
Wow.
Hey, you guys watch this movie, you're gonna be terrorizing that living room. I'm telling y'all right now, because Bigfoot represents in this movie, and dang, at the end, you guys got to see the ending. The ending right there. If all you see is the ending, they have a big battle scene, and afterwards, Bigfoot represents. So again, this movie is a pretty good one. Like he said, if there's something that after you watch Primal Rage, you want to see something kind of follow that up,
Like a double feature.
yeah, that's the movie to watch. But warning, you're gonna tear up that living room watching this movie, boy. I'm telling you, you're gonna fly off that couch onto that love seat and might break it. I don't know, but it's a pretty cool movie. So you guys check it out. Again, it's a pretty good movie. And I'd like Russell to talk a little bit about that new. What's the name of it? Is it Puss in Boots, or is it got a different name?
Yeah, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went and watched that after you told me about it. Man, it's got a death character in there, and it's pretty awesome. So
Yeah. I've always liked Shrek, the Shrek movies, and Puss in Boots he's a good character, and I honestly can't even remember the first Puss in Boots movie. Honestly, I'd probably have to watch it again, but I forgot there was a first one, and this one's like a sequel to that one from years ago. But this one's called The Last Wish, and basically he runs out of his 9 lives, and there's this comet coming, this star coming to Earth, and once you make a wish, you can wish for whatever you want. So that's the adventure of it. But before that, before he's like motivated to even go there, he gets a visit from Death himself, and it's crazy because I was watching it, and you could hear like this distant, like eerie whistle coming, because Puss in Boots, he whistles first, right? He whistles at night in this bar, and he whistles this tune, and then out of like the distance, like this whistle, it's the same whistle back to him, and it's like just eerily surrounding him, and all of a sudden, like he turns around, he looks, and nothing's like around him. Then the camera, it's an animation movie, but it goes back to Puss in Boots, and right next to him is this hooded like wolf, and I thought I think that's Death. but then like they kind of introduced him as like a what do you call it? Not a vigilante, a bounty hunter. So that's how they kind of introduced him as, and so. But I thought like I think that's a death. He's hooded. He has the sickles, the sickles, and he's fighting Puss in Boots. And Puss in Boots is known for like fighting and entertaining and just beating every opponent that he can come across. And this guy like knows every move he's about to do, and he scares them to pretty much to death. Puss runs away, and then that's when like he starts meeting like different people from the past movies and new characters, and they're on this journey to find the place where the star is supposed to hit the earth, this comet. And so it's good. It's really good. But seeing that at first, like the whistling and then that night, I was like, bro.
I think in there he does refer to him as death.
Yeah.
Because when he's telling that girl cat, you know, he said, I don't run out of my lives. I need that last wish because, you know, he's right on my tail, you know, and stuff. So to me, that was a pretty cool movie. I went and seen it after Russell recommended it. You know, these guys are always giving me good movies to watch, and you know, I thought that was definitely one of them. I went and watched it, and I thought, man, that blew me away. I felt kind of embarrassed being the only adult in that theater, but you know, after I watched the movie, you know, the topic and stuff, you know, and I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. So,
yeah, it was. You got to see it, Tyler.
Yeah. I got kids, so yeah,
Take 'em.
that'd be definitely one that we'll have to watch.
yeah.
It's like I don't know because they have some adult humor, like a lot of adult humor, like
Yeah, like the Shrek movie.
yeah. I mean, like it's just like it's fun. That's why I like the Shrek movies. Like it's just like crazy, stupid fun. Like
Yeah, for sure.
But Puss in Boots, like I would say, go watch that. Everybody, think of us when you see death. We talked about whistling and what that would call. So it's crazy, like coincidence.
Someone was listening. That's what we always say. We say it and then it happens.
Dang. Well, these are all great recommendations if you guys are looking for something new to do out there that has something to do with the paranormal. You know, I think these are all great recommendations for that. So again, I hope you guys get a chance to check those out, you know. And I know today's episode, you know, they wanted to talk about Buthlas, you know, and what that means in Muskogee is a witch. You know, people always refer to Stegini as a owl, you know, or they refer to it as a witch, you know, but its original name is Buthla, you know, and, you know, with that being said, you know, these Steginis are shapeshifters, and all through ancient worlds, you know, you had stories of shapeshifters, especially in Indian country. You know, a lot of tribes they talk about, even, what was that movie, Braveheart? Is that what it's called? Where they're chasing that guy and, you know, they see that deer jump across, you know, through those woods and stuff, you know. They refer to it as a shapeshifter. You know, even that lady, you know, she refers to. So I seen Jimmy down the road, you know, he came up to, you know, and anyway, you know, that was common, you know, in Indian country to hear stories like that, not only about owls, but, you know, shape-shifting into a deer or a horse, you know, or a hawk, you know, or you know, some kind of animal that, you know, is powerful. I've even heard shape-shifting stories from up north into mountain lions or wolves, you know. So, you know, again, you know, that shape-shifting stories that you'll hear, you know, they got all kinds of animals that they refer to, you know, even with Muskogee Creeks, you know, nowadays all you hear is, you know, the Stegini is an owl type being. And, you know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know, there's several Muskogee artists that have depicted this entity. The only one I can think of right now is Kelly Haney's transformation painting. I don't know if somebody could look that up. It's by Kelly Haney. It's called Transformation, and it shows him. I believe his head is an owl, and the rest of his body is, but he's getting ready to transform into that owl.
Whoa.
And so I know here in Creek Country, around Okima, Wetumpka, Weleetka, around that Jaeger Mission area, you still hear a lot of stories about those things, especially in Seminole, Wewoka, in areas like that. You'll hear prominent stories about these things. Let's see.
Whoa.
And that's an old painting, and yeah, can you?
I'll post it on our episode.
And so, this is from
I'm gonna save that.
Muskogee Creek and Seminole artist. And anyway, there's several other artists out there that have depicted this shape-shifting ability, and again, even up, I seen a painting, I want to say it's by Merlin Little Thunder. I might be wrong on that. He's a Cheyenne artist from Oklahoma, and he has I believe it's transforming, going into a dog, and I believe that was him. I know it's somebody from Oklahoma that's from CNA country, but again, you got a lot of tribes that believed in those things and still believe in those things. And of course, you have people talk about skinwalkers and all these other things, and everybody thinks Navajo's got the corner market on this shape-shifting things, but no, it wasn't just Navajos, it wasn't just Creeks, it wasn't just Cheyennes. I heard a story a long time ago from Lawton area, but from a Comanche man. His name was, I might pronounce it wrong, so again, forgive me on that. Woodgie Watchtaker. And he was known as a famous dancer, and he was well known in that Comanche area, Lawton, down that way. I think they have a building named after him down there in Comanche country. I might be wrong again. I probably pronounced that name wrong, but again, I apologize. But a long time ago, he talked about there was a Comanche man, old Comanche man. He was known to shapeshift, all the time, and he would use that shapeshifting ability to travel. He would turn into a wolf, and he would travel somewhere and get there pretty fast, or he would change into a horse, and he would get to a place. And with Comanches, they're named Lord of the Plains. They're supposed to be the horse riders in Indian communities. And so they had a lot of stories about some of these guys being able to shapeshift into horse type beings. And so again, those were always very interesting stories. Even down in Cherokee country, they were a lot similar, as Muskogees. They would turn into wolves or rabbits or owls, and also depending on what their intentions were sometimes. A lot of times people forget, owl was an only negative entity within the Indian communities, but all those birds that were like blackbirds and ravens, even buzzards, they were considered sacred, for the dead. They took care of the dead. And a lot of times, a lot of those spiritual people would use their ornaments, their feathers or their talons to do certain things, so that shape-shifting ability, a lot of people or a lot of tribes had that. Now, across the waters, a lot of people, all nationalities had a form of it, and you always hear about Dracula. What did he do? He turned into smoke. He did this. He done that.
Turned into a bat.
Yep.
Turned into bat. Turned crazy and bingo night. No, I'm just kidding. But
Upside down playing bingo.
Don't mess with his daubers.
I don't know, boy. That'd be something else. No, I'm just kidding. But also, in Ireland, you had the werewolf change from man to wolf. You had different, nationalities. And even in Africa, in the different nations over there, each tribe had different things that these things would turn into to do, certain things. And if you hear any of their stories, it sounds just like Muskogee stories. They even transformed into snakes, over there, and to me, those were pretty cool stories. Like I said, nowadays everybody says, Stegini, that's an owl, and all that, or they'll see an owl come, and of course, they'll, if it does certain things, that's what it is. But again, back in the days of old, they would turn into other things too. You would hear stories of people seeing these black dogs coming into people's homes. Or they would show up in people's yard. It'd be a strange black dog, but something different about it was off, and it would give you that funny vibe, and they would say that was one of those shapeshifters. He's bringing something bad, and I told a story about seeing one of those things at a church, a Muskogee church, but I've told that story a lot of times, so I know it's out there. So again, I won't repeat that story because I know people will say, that guy. No, but I'm always telling the same story, guy. Don't you got any new ones? No, I'm just kidding. But even Osages had stories of shapeshifters. They had one famous one that was from the Hominy area, and that one, I won't say his name because I won't be able to pronounce it correctly. But anyway, he was in the Hominy area here in Oklahoma, and he was one of their last, I guess what you say, shapeshifters of their people, and he did some kind of amazing things. So they would say, sometimes you'd see this dog walking into Indian camp. He'd have a scarf or a handkerchief around his neck, and they knew that was him. And, of course, he would take things, and then he'd disappear. And later on, you'd see that old man. He'd have what he needed, and so, there's, countless stories like that, so again, Stegini wasn't, just a Muskogee thing. Again, you had, stories from all over Indian country that had to deal with shapeshifters, and I'm sure Tyler might have heard some.
Yeah, I was curious though, just because it's never been really like fully explained, other than like the purpose. Like, is it done through like? I know there's like good medicine and there's bad medicine, and what I've always heard is that medicine people know both ways, because you have to know the bad stuff in order to combat it. But it doesn't mean that they practice it. But they always said that the Stegini was through bad medicine, done through bad medicine, and used to, it's either a curse people or send a curse to people. So, like, especially like witches, and I've heard stories of, them, like, in order to transform, you will see. Usually, the story is always an old woman.
God.
And I don't know why that is, but the stories I've heard, it's like an old woman, and maybe somebody wronged her somehow, and then she like goes out behind a shed or something and will throw up like her insides and leave them there in order to transform, and then go. I've heard like shoot not arrows, but like arrows into people. There was a story that I heard. I don't think I should mention his name, but about him doctoring somebody that had gotten shot with the arrow, and they had to. I don't know if I should really go into like the details of it, but let's just say like after it was like looked like an infected hair sticking out of their hip, and when he doctored it all up, a fly flew out of that thing, and it was, healed or whatever after he had doctored it. But then they came back, and like the old woman, you have to re-eat the innards in order to change back into your human form again. And they say that like if you come across like innards, because sometimes you'll be out in the woods and you hear stories of people like, oh man, there's just like a bunch of guts just like laying out. That means that they've transformed. They're off doing some bad medicine somewhere, and you're supposed to either burn those things or bury those things so they can't come back, that they're trapped in that way. But I guess that's my question, is it used as bad medicine to curse somebody? Is it used to damage somebody? Is it used to scare somebody? Or like, what do you think? Like,
Well, that's definitely a good question, and this is what I was told. All these medicines were meant for good reason, and it was man that made them evil. So you'll hear that phrase from a lot of elders from all over. They'll tell you the same thing. Creator blessed that with us, for us to use in a good way, but somebody, altered it and made it evil. This shape-shifting ability, I've always heard that, this was done in a good way. It was to give you security if you're traveling through maybe hostile territory, or, a place of like certain woods might have been super haunted. Way back then, they believed those woods had its own spirit. So sometimes they would have to change into something where those spirits wouldn't bother them. And so these type of songs that they would use, and now this is where it gets kind of specific. When you're singing these songs, you have to use that original language of these things. For example, if I wanted to be a wolf, that original word for wolf, we would use that. Again, Muskogees, we had over 66 different tribes underneath us. And so each tribal town had their own language at one time. This Muskogee you hear today, is a jumble of all those traditional languages. And some of it's gone. Some of those words are lost. But these medicine people should know those original names. And so when the song is basically the same, but whatever you're going to transform into is what you put in. And there's an old funny story I heard long time ago. An old relative, I'm talking about old, this is back in the old country, when we were in Alabama, Georgia, Florida area around the Everglades and stuff. They said he was practicing, and he wanted to sneak up on this old lady, and so he sung that song, but he was wanting to try and change into something different. And again, that you have to get those words right, you have to say them right. And he messed up, and instead of turning into a scary animal, he turned into like a wild quail. you know, or wild turkey. I mean, wild turkey. And that old lady saw him, knew that was him. So she changed into a wolf and chased him. And he panicked, and he couldn't, you know, reverse that song. And that old lady got him. So they said that's a lesson for you to learn. You know, when you do these things, you got to do them proper. You can't shortcut nothing. You know, when it comes to these medicines, I've always said there's a way of life. You know, there's certain etiquette that you do, and there's things that you don't do. Now, unfortunately, today we do all the things we're not supposed to do. You know, those old medicine ways, they were rough. They were tough. You know, hard to do. You know, not everybody could do that. You know, nowadays everybody's medicine man. You know, everybody's on the internet for $9.99. They'll
Read the book.
I know they'll give you that blessing like that, or they'll witch somebody for you. You know, so you know, again, you know, not to offend anybody, but you know, those old stories like that were to teach you a lesson. But anyway, you know, getting back to the topic on hand, you know, you asked, you know, originally they were meant to be good, you know, and so, again, nowadays, you know, again, you've got good guys and then you got bad guys, just, and like you were saying, you explained it perfect. I have to give you that, you know, they used to say that dealing with these things, you know, again, you know, they all started out good, you know, but you do need to learn what the bad is. So, because that way you can unravel it. And so, like with Muskogees, you know, I'm not speaking for any other tribe. I don't know what those guys do. But for Muskogee people, they knew, you know, the good and the bad. And, you know, again, they didn't do the bad because, you know, there's a curse on you if you do that bad.
That's what I've always heard is once you dabble in it, even a little bit,
there's no going
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you touch it, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, you're down that road forever.
And then there's even some medicine people that won't cure you because they don't want to mess with it.
That's
you
right.
know? I
That's
mean,
right.
it's just you go find somebody else.
So, and that's
You
you know,
know.
that's a good thing that you say that, because you know, again, you know, nowadays you got all these guys, you know, they think, you know, they've got the power to do all kinds, but some of these things you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not correct, you better leave it alone.
Yeah.
And that goes for that healing too. If you say, Russell comes and says, you know, I got this on me, and it's these old, ancient, evil deities that's on him. If I'm not doing things right, that thing's not only going to get him, but for me trying, it's going to get me too. And the thing people forget, not only is it going to get him and his, but for me trying and not knowing, it's going to get me and mine. And that's that curse. You know, you don't want to put that on your family. You know, unfortunately today, you know, everybody's medicine man. Everybody knows things, you know, and unfortunately people don't tell them those kind of things. You know, we've talked about this before, you know, on these ghost shows, you see, you know, everybody starting to bust out sage and cedar and, you know, things like that, you know, and, you know, sometimes they think they've gotten it away. You know, I just hosted an event in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, and there was an Osage man there, and he talked about, you know, he went to, I guess what you call it, divinity school, you know, learn to be a preacher man. I guess I know that ain't right, but you know, he's got that degree to, you know, be a pastor or something like that. But you know, again, you know, he was talking about, how he was called upon to, he's always getting called because somebody's saying that they're possessed and, stuff like that. So, him being a young guy, he didn't think he'd ever really mess with something real, because in school they tell you majority of this is mental illness. That's what he was taught. But his first case, he said he went to this house and this individual, truly had something. He said right when you walked through the door, you could just feel it. It knew. It knew him. And, he said, he quoted this scripture. Again, I don't know those scriptures very well, but I'll just say, he said it's biblical. When you cast these things out, they don't stay away forever unless you really got you're right. And he said normally they'll go and come back with 7 more to come at that individual and you for trying to cast it out. And what also people don't understand is that these entities, time and place means nothing to them. For you and I, we might get bored after a day or two, but these things, they don't hunger like us. They don't thirst like we do. They don't sleep like we do. It might be long down the road when it comes back after you, to get you, or when you always hear at your weakest point. And that's what, I think about when I see these guys, using, cedar and sweetgrass and sage, and, they're in there cussing out these demonic things, or they think they're demonic. They're, might be just spirits. Prime examples, I watched this show, I want to say it's like 28 Days of Haunting or 48 Days of Haunting. I don't know what it's called, something like that. Theory of it is I think that Ed Lorraine Warren said if you're in a haunted place for like 28 days, can one of you guys look that up? See what it's actually called? It's like 28 Days of Haunting or something like that. Anyway, they believe that you're in there for 28 days. It takes you to a level that you've never been before, and you can truly do an investigation. So that means you got to live in that haunted place for like 28 days for it to actually, or 48 days, I don't remember which one it is.
It's 28 days.
Oh, 28
haunted.
Yeah. And so that's actually a good show to watch too. But you had this minister guy in there, he thought he was all pumped up. He started trying to take on that spirit in there. He started hitting his chest, calling it out. What up?
Zach Baggins.
I know. I was, what up? I'll power bomb you, guy. You don't want none of this? Then he started going crazy. And his partner started seeing him, transform. All he wanted to do was just sleep. And he was always in a bad mood. He was just different. His demeanor even changed. And I was watching that, and I thought, dang, that guy, he got that thing dealt with, that boy. Again, not nothing against Christianity or however, whatever you believe in, but you got to have faith. You got to follow those rules. Whether you're ceremonial, they're strict. I mean, those are some strict ways. And I'm just shocked on all these guys that are just instant medicine man, and here they're out drinking and running around doing all kind of crazy things, worse than Bigfoot. No. But, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and, then they want to be called a holy man. That ain't no holy man. That's a man. In our olden days, you had those true spiritual leaders, and they didn't go nowhere. They didn't eat in public. They took care of themselves physically, spiritually, and mentally. those in today's society, they refer to mind, body, and spirit, terminology. I know Russell's kind of experiencing that right now with his, what do you call it? What do you call it? Yoga? Or is that?
Yeah. DDP yoga, yeah. And just eating better and being more active, healthier lifestyle. Yeah.
He's going down that medicine man road right
I'm
there.
trying
to make his mind, body, and spirit strong. And I commend him on that. And I know Tyler's doing that too. It's too much for me, so I love those cheeseburgers. So
I miss them.
And I love that soda, so
I'll be back, guys. No.
that's my middle name, Soda. Or for you other guys, it's Pop. I know some of you guys don't call it soda, it's Pop. So however you refer to it, old way or new way, it don't matter. It's still the same. It's delicious. But again, you have to have that, in your spiritual walks. And, doing these things, they might be transforming. They might be doing just a little bit. And, to be honest, I've seen some of these things. And, back then, they would say when you would see those things, they were scary. They would put off those spooky vibes. Mm-hmm. They had that much charisma, that much power, that much maca. They had what it took. Nowadays, they're jacked, even when they're trying to be scary. Mm-hmm. So again, if they would be serious, what if you're gonna be good, be good. If you're gonna be bad, be bad. Don't try to be both. Mm-hmm. They always say you can't ask good to be evil, and you can't ask evil to be good. Mm-hmm. And that was the philosophy. But nowadays, everybody wants to mix them. They want easy route. Just like Russell was saying, it's tough. It's tough to give up that caffeine. I mean, your body will bust you down. You'll feel it. I mean, you just.
Yeah, I was super tired. The first 4 days, it was like just detoxing, and my body was like, dude, just get a soda. Just get some sugar in you. But it was weird, man. Like, it's weird when you take your body off these toxins and everything, and you see how your body actually reacts to it. And I was tired, like you're just doing. Like, I didn't want to. It's like, because my body was just running off of that energy of sugar and caffeine. Because I would drink pop, like soda, whatever you want to call it, 24/7. It was bad.
No more Sam's Cola.
Get out. No,
all I had to say.
Just kidding.
Russell put that new meaning. What would he do for a Klondike bar? Ah,
For 5K subscribers on our YouTube, I'll have a soda. No.
Oh, dang.
What? Yeah, But once you did, once you reached that point, how did you feel afterwards?
After that, and then I gave up fast food too. Like, I haven't had anything really like bad. Like, I mean, we cook our own food. So I know what we're putting into it, and I know like what's going into my body and everything. So after like that first 4 days though, like then I started running off of like, and then I was fasting too. I was fasting like 16 hours a day. So after that though, you start running off your own body's energy. Like when I was fasting, like it got to a point where like, cause I can cut out like junk food. It's a pop and soda. Like I cannot like cut out easily. Like it's almost like it's just my body was so used to that I needed it. But after that, man, I got used to drinking water, and I started drinking sparkling water, and unsweet tea helps so much. But after that, I just felt fine. And I was doing DDP yoga, And man, like my back was feeling way better. My knee, like I honestly thought I was going to need knee surgery because I could not bend it all the way or extend it. I always needed like that little curl on it, like just to kind of just to ease it. And we went walking like the mall for Christmas, like shopping. And we were there for like 2 hours, and man, we got home and my knee was like swelled up so bad, and I could hardly like bend it or extend it. And for like the next 3 or 4 days, it was painful. But now, I mean, I told you guys I started walking and jogging on the treadmill, not like just, switching between for like 45 minutes. And that first day I was like, well, we'll see if my knee holds up. And sure enough, it did. Like everything's fine. My back does not hurt. My knee does not hurt. And it's just stretching. And like finally, like I feel good enough to like actually want to go outside and do stuff. Like I don't feel so just broken down, know. So it's put me in a better mood. It's cleared my head a lot more. I want to do a lot more things actively, and it just feels better. Like I feel so much better.
You got energy, right?
And I got some rest like before everybody came over, and I woke up and had some straight black coffee, which I'm still getting used to because I was telling these guys I would just put French vanilla sweetener all in that thing. I might as well just drink that sweetener.
Splash of coffee. Sweet vanilla. That's all they got. That's his new nickname.
You see that sweetener right here?
Straw. Bendy straw.
But I mean, it's a big difference. It really is, and I'm sleeping better too. I would toss and turn a lot, I think, but I just feel like I sleep a lot better, and then I wake up a lot better. I just don't feel so groggy or like I'm up. Like I just rely on like simple things. It's simpler. It's a simpler type of living, I guess. But it's crazy, man. It really is. And I did this before, but now I'm making it a point to go farther than just like 100 days. Like I want to make it like not a hobby, but what do you call that? A habit. A habit of just going forward like this. And yeah, I'll slip up, but I think my mindset is like not to let it take over like it once did. The junk, the trash or whatever. So, but
have you noticed other things like your complexion? Is it getting better, lighter? You know what?
Yeah. She was saying like my face is slimming down. It's not so I took like before and after, like I took before pictures the first day I was doing yoga and I started doing this. And man, like it looked like I was about to like pop. I was telling Rob this on his podcast. Like it looked like a balloon, and I was just like one stick away from just popping. I was so bloaty, and you could just see it like around my neck and then everywhere. Like I was just so bloaty, and I looked bad, and no one told me. No, just kidding.
No. You got that dark neck.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Your complexion's a lot better.
Yeah, I thought you looked a little slimmer when I came in.
And then we got a filter for the shower. We got a filter, so that helps with like softer skin. Like the water's not so hard like taking a shower because there's a lot of like different like bad minerals or something in like tap water and chemicals. So we got this filter for our shower, and like it helps my skin enough to where it's not so like itchy and dry. Like it just like feels way better. So on top of that too, it's just like I don't know, looking out for myself.
That's another topic that you touched on that I'd like to address.
What's that?
You guys use lotion? Talking about tight and itchy and all that.
Real ashy.
Just a little bit of lotion will help you out like that, boy. Especially on those elbows, knees,
those ankles,
and neck. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, don't forget that. No. And ladies, too. I seen some ladies over the weekend, boy, at the dance. Boy, them knees look like they had, what they call those, knee pads on. I said, God. Dang, but put Ashy Larry to shame, boy. He was, You guys know who I'm talking about too. Y'all know. Don't be trying to hide it. No. But anyway, getting back on topic at hand, that way of life is rough. You guys are experiencing that. Just think, if you were able to, put that, into a different avenue, your spiritual, put that in there with it. What a big difference that would be. Again, I'm too lazy. I love cheeseburgers. I love soda or pop, like I said, I love my chocolate. So I can't let that go, man. I got to have chocolate at least twice a day. So anyway, to me, I don't know. I guess when it's my time, it's my time. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but no, I too have tried to change, my lifestyle of, all you can eat buffets, all those kind of things. Boy, Golden Corral used to be the bomb for me, boy.
I got that chocolate fountain.
I just be under there.
Oh, yeah.
They said, look at that guy.
Laying on the chocolate fountain.
I know, his mouth just, I raise up just like that, boy. Look like Mud Monster.
There's a muck man.
Dang it. But yeah, again, this shape shifting wasn't just an Indian thing. It was all over, but the rules were all the same. You ask any of these ancient people from across the waters, all over, the rules were basically the same. You'll hear them, that mind, body, and spirit. You had to have that mastered, put together to be able to do those supernatural abilities. So, that's something that, everybody just wants to say, owls, Stigini, this, that, or it's just a Creek thing or Navajo thing, No, this was across the board too. A lot of these things, you'll learn that you go to different communities, they start talking about these things, you'll say, wow, Indians had that too. So, again, to me, that's always a fascinating subject, especially when I hear from non-natives and their beliefs in things like that. They all have their own name for these things, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, my uncle told me a story when I was growing up at our house on Yellow Horse. So, if you ever, Yellow Horse is pretty scary at night. I remember he was talking about how he stayed there, and this is before I was born, but he said he was like in our front room, just on the couch, and we had this like window in the front room. And when I was growing up, we had like curtains on it, but they were like see-through curtains. So, and I was always told not to look outside at night. So I never like looked that way ever when I was little, just because it looked so creepy. But he said he was sleeping and he woke up because he heard like rustling outside of that window, and he looked around, and when he woke up, it went away. And he tried to go back to sleep and close his eyes. It happened again, and finally he got up and he went over there and he looked outside. He said like there's like this giant 6-foot owl standing like right there on that patio part. And he told me when I was a kid that it was just like this giant owl, and it turned its head like all the way around, and it looked at him as soon as he looked outside, and he said it just flew off. And then when I got older, he said it had like a human type like face. So, but he was, I didn't want to scare you that much. But that's what he told me. And so after he told me that, man, I had never looked out that window at night ever. Like that even like creeped me out when I was growing up. But he said like, yeah, it was like this giant like 6-foot owl. And he said as soon as he seen that, man, he tried to close that curtain, and then he just like went and laid back down, and it just went away. But yeah, I could just see it. Him describing it. He didn't have to describe it. I could just see it right there because we have that light pole, and it lights up that part of the street, and you could see what is exactly out there if something was standing out there.
This is a cool thing I like about these kind of stories. And I thought about this once you mentioned it. You said it had a human type face. Like I was saying. Nowadays, that's kind of majority of them that you would see. But long time ago, those guys used to, try their best to transform all the way. And the reason that is because if you knew who this individual was, you owned them. You owned them. When I say owned them, I don't mean just, oh, come take out my trash, or something like that. No, these guys would come and, if they knew you knew who they were, sky's the limit. And I'm talking about sky's the limit. Back then, they would ask for horses, they would ask for lands.
Whoa.
All kinds of crazy things, and they would have to give it, if they found out who they were. The other thing about it was that, like today, I'll hear somebody tell these Stigini stories, and they say, yeah, I went out there and got me a pistol, and I started shooting at it, and I hit it, Back in the day, they would tell you, that's fine, you can go out there and shoot at it, but you ain't never gonna hit it. I don't care if you use bow, arrow, or you use a pistol, rifle, whatever, because their medicine would keep that from happening, would keep them from getting hit. Now that's true if it's undoctored. But if you had that weapon, whether it's a bow, whether it's a gun, or it's something as simple as a toothpick, you put that medicine on that toothpick or sticks, they would find that person dead the next morning. That was warfare back in the day. And, nowadays, people's all stuck on, just the transformation part. They don't know how to do that war style battle, with these things. They would doctor those things up, and they wouldn't even have to shoot at them. They'd just put it on their portion. If they would show up, they'd hit them. A lot of people passed away because of that. You'll hear those stories all through Indian country. So-and-so doctored up some sharpened sticks, or they found an old axe. They doctored it up, put it in the ground, and those things show up. They'd find an old lady or old man somewhere. They'd be no more. And so, nowadays you hear people say, I went out there with my gun, I shot that owl. Then it wasn't a shapeshifter. It was just a regular owl if you were able to do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe that guy didn't have the power. Again, you had to have power. You had to have that real strong stuff. No bullet would hit you unless it was fixed properly. So those are some of the little things that you don't hear about these stories anymore. So anyway.
Yeah, I had heard that story too, I guess, about Harvey Pratt, with the Girl Scout murders, and they were chasing Gene Leroy Hart, and he put medicine on his bullets, and that's how he was, that they would fly straight and only hit, the bad, and he never got to use that, but at the end, just having that, I guess they caught him.
Yeah.
I guess that's save that one for another day, I guess. But anyway, I'd heard that story. He'd put medicine on his bullets.
Whoa. Yeah, we'll have to cover that soon. Also, I like to take back from an earlier episode when I said The Witch was trash. That movie, The Witch. I watch it as a grown-up now.
Yeah, you rewatched it.
I rewatched it, and then I noticed the things you guys were mentioning about it, and I really had that in mind, so it was good.
It's a good movie.
I love that movie,
Yeah,
man.
That's a good one.
That's a Muskogee from Henry Attaway.
It was good. I enjoyed it because, I don't know, it was on HBO Max, and I scroll by it all the time, and I was like, let's just put it on.
Yeah.
See, then, yeah, it was good. It got my attention. I think before, because we were the only ones in that theater when we went and watched it, and I wanted to be scared, but you know, like that was when like all these movies that were making you jump out of nowhere. Like I wanted that. I wanted that juice. I want to be juiced up like that, but. Watching it then, I think I just kind of tuned out. Like I was watching it, but I wasn't really like tuned into it. So, but now you know, noticing all the stuff that you guys are talking about, and then actually just enjoying it, just actually focusing on it, and then putting myself like back in the day like that, like that'd be terrifying.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
It is
a slow burn kind of movie. Mm-hmm. A lot of I don't know unexpected things. You're just like, dang, like. That's weird, you know, but in a creepy way, you know. I need to go back and watch that one too. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it. There's another one like that too, if you can find it. I think it was on Shudder called Eyes of Fire. It's kind of about the same thing. These get excommunicated out into this Indian country, but this is like natives, and the natives
For
are
real?
like, yeah.
Send me that name. I'll look it up and
called
watch
Eyes of Fire.
it. Eyes of Fire.
Yeah.
That's
It's
pretty cool.
same thing. He gets excommunicated out of his little religious group, but he winds up in Indian country, and the Indians are like, "Oh, what's this?"
Whoa.
You know, I watched this one. I can't think of the name. I'm sitting there trying to think of it, but it was more about old school voodoo. It was about this black family going back to the guy's dad died, you know, and you know after he grew up, he left home. You know, never really went back, but he knew his dad used to mess with all that stuff. And the cool thing I thought about this movie was, you know, whoever made that movie really did their homework. And I can't think the name of that movie, but anyway, the gist of that story is that he's trying to get back home. He's flying, and some reason his little aircraft crashed. His family was on there, and of course this black community that lived around where his dad was, they all practiced, you know, this voodoo type stuff. And he wakes up, you know, from that wreck, and you know this woman's got him kind of captive in her home, and she's using witchcraft to kind of that voodoo to keep him there, you know. And there's all little subtle things all through that movie. If you know what you're doing, you'll pick those little things out. And that's why I say this is a good movie to watch, you know, especially if you're Muskogee. No, but you know, because again, that voodoo was a combination of native, you know, and African medicine put together, you know. And so you will see those little things. You know, there's a scene in there where this guy, he's blind, and that old lady, you know, she's gonna give him his vision back. And so I think she takes eyes from a goat, doctors it up, puts it in his head. He can see now. Oh man, that's a crazy scene. I'm like, golly, that reminds me of Wetumpka. You'll see stuff like that running around way back in the day. So
I was gonna say, I think in Sepulpa, I've seen some people run around with some goat eyes.
I don't know. Well, it'd be like this. No.
Crazy eyes. Mr. Deeds.
But
I think he's staying in front of a telephone pole and see around it.
but at the end, they battled it out witchcraft way, you know. And the cool thing about it, you know, like I said, whoever made this movie really did their homework on this, because, you know, at the end, there's certain things that you do to kind of, like I was telling you, you can doctor those sticks. You know, those are all warfare type things. And in this movie, they put that to use in there. God, I can't think the name of that movie.
Sounds awesome.
I'll have to look that up and see if I can find the name for you guys. But you guys got to watch that if you're, you know, you want to really see, you know, stuff like that, you know. And at the end, they battled it out, and come to find out that that young man that has been away, he learned from his dad, but he just didn't. He didn't want to acknowledge it until he needed it.
Yeah.
And he was able to hold his own with that old lady. That old lady was shocked, And then she found out who his dad was, And that was it.
Dang.
See, it's always an old lady
I
in these
know,
stories.
I
What's up with that?
When you was telling that one, I thought you was gonna say she was mad because somebody didn't do the dishes, like take out the trash. Boy, she got all evil on it, boy. Wow, pick up your clothes now.
That's one of the things. Like I was teasing my daughter, when she was younger. I said, you grow up in a native household, man. Like, you don't just get to leave the house. You got to do some kind of chore in order to earn it. You got to go do the dishes before you leave the house. Like, you just don't go up and leave. Like, nope, not in this household. You better vacuum or sweep something, then you can go.
So mama or grandma will make you come correct, boy.
That's when you know you grow up in real tradition. You got to earn your way out of the house by doing some manual labor.
Is that movie older or newer?
It's actually newer. Let me see if I can
What
find
about
it.
that one? The
The Eyes of Fire is old. It's like
Is it?
83, 82 probably. Yeah, it's old.
Dang. Yeah, I never heard of it. I'm gonna have to check it out though.
No, it's good.
Did you watch Ravenous yet, Chris?
I haven't watched that yet either.
I thought you seen it.
I have seen it, but I haven't watched it. You told me about it.
Yeah.
That's when I have like not rabies, right? But kind of like rabies.
No, that's when it's back in the day, and that this guy's a cannibal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's like a
What
little
was the one I was thinking of?
little troop, I guess. They're out. I gotta watch it again too, because I watched it when I was a little kid, and then again like when it would come on HBO or Cinemax growing up.
Yeah.
And I would just sit down and watch it, but it's cool.
That movie's called Spell,
Spell.
and it was made in 2020.
Dang.
Oh, okay.
So check that out if you guys are interested in those kind of witching movies. It's called Spell.
Oh, I got it right here.
Does it have like a thing about the movie on there?
Yeah, it says like a man crash lands in a rural Appalachia. I can't pronounce that. And awakens in an attic of a traditional hoodoo practitioner. He desperately tries to break free from her dark magic and save his family from a sinister ritual before the rise of the blood moon. Dang.
Dang, they even use like cemetery dirt in that movie. And I was like, dang, that's sure enough creep.
It's that real stuff.
I know that, boy. All you Indians know what I'm talking about when I say using cemetery dirt. Don't be acting like you don't. No. I know some of y'all when so-and-so didn't take out that trash. No.
Yep, left the house without doing something.
Yahola. No. Did you have any experiences with
Yeah, just one, like a personal experience. I think I've told it, but maybe I haven't. Back in the day, I would have to, just to kind of work around my schedule. I'd have to get up real early in the morning to go work out. And this was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had gotten up, and I lived in an apartment then. And I was coming down the steps, and when I was getting into my car, I looked up, and right on the big dumpster, when your apartments are at, they had a big old dumpster after you throw your trash in, and there was a big old owl sitting, just watching me. Like I could feel it, like it was watching me, and I stopped, and then I kind of looked away because I was like, oh man, like I, you know what I mean? Like, did it see me or am I seeing it? So I kind of looked away, and then I looked back up, and the thing's had his wings spread. And man, exaggeration or not, man, I swear that was at least probably like a 4-foot wingspan. Probably that thing just spread his wings out real big, and I was just like, "F this, man!" Like, I am going back in the house. And so I was going to go back up the stairs, and I mean, I'd only walked probably like 10 feet And when I turned around again, and whoosh, it was gone, just gone. And man, I went back upstairs and closed the door. I was just like, not today, Satan. Not today. And so yeah, man, I smudged real good and just like, I'm gonna get that off me. Like I'm not taking any chances, you know, maybe have a car wreck or drop a weight on my foot or something. I just thought it was weird, man, because it's like what Chris said is like, you know, like it was. Now I can't say for sure, you know, it is shapeshifter, a Stigini or whatever, but I knew something was off about that. I mean, it just immediately chills went up my back and I got goosebumps all over me, and I just felt like this real sense of dread. Like that's not good. Like good, like bad news. You know what I mean? Just you could just feel it in the air. And then, like I said, when I saw it, I felt that, and I looked down just for a brief moment, you know, because I don't know, I get spooked out real easy like that, and then I look back up, and those wings were spread. And I was just like, oh yeah, man, like it is kind of like it is what I saw, you know what I mean? And then I turned around, I started walking back up the steps, and I looked back over, what you did say, don't ever do. You know, don't they say like don't ever turn around, you know? But man, it creeped me out so much. Like I just turned around, but that thing was gone, you know? And that's when I was like, yeah, I went back upstairs, and I don't know, man, it really spooked me out. I had a hard time sleeping, you know, or even wanting to go back to sleep because it scared me like that, you know. So that's really probably my only like personal story that I have about that. But you know, yeah.
I wanted to kind of, got off topic, but one of the things I wanted to address that you were talking about earlier was you was talking about those shooting hares, you know, and I was just gonna say, you know, just recently I went to a dance around that Oklahoma City area. And, you know, again, you know, you have to understand these powwows are about money. You know, you don't want to, you know, lose your money, or, you know, if you're a contest dancer, you know, that really means a lot to you, you know, to go on to these. Because some of these guys, that's all they do. You know, they go from dance to dance, and that's kind of what puts, you know, food on the table, or, you know, help with bills, or, you know, school clothes or what, you know. And I was so shocked with so many young dancers, you know, they're not able to dance anymore because, you know, their leg is jacked up, you know, one way or the other, you know. And a couple of these young guys lost their leg. You know, of course, you know, people say, that's diabetes, but, you know, these are youngsters, guys, you know, losing their leg. I'm like, dang, you know, this is getting too serious, you know. But the thing that I thought was cool, or not cool, but interesting at this dance, there was a long time ago, you would hear this would be like a frequent story at some of these dances, you know. At that center drum, you know, somebody try to start a song and they would lose it, you know, and they try to get it back, you know, and for some reason, you know, that singer just couldn't sing a song, you know. And now majority of these guys, you know, in that area, they're real proficient singers, you know, they got thousands of songs running through their head, but for them not to come up with something, you know, that's kind of unusual, you know. And not only that, but you have the guys next to them. And so it went from the next singer, he tried to start a song, he couldn't do it, you know, something, it just left him. That song was just gone, you know. So the next singer went, you know, this is the third singer, you know, try to start a song. And these are all prominent singers in that area. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to offend nobody, but these are all prominent, you know, within those powwow arenas. And on that fourth one, that singer, you know, tried to start that song, and he got choked up. You know, he started the song, it was going good, then he just got literally choked up. And so that head singer of that drum that was taking care of that drum, he ended that session. He just started banging on that drum. Said, we're going to have to reevaluate ourselves. And so, the thing I haven't seen in a long time is where you see someone like that. He said a prayer, over that drum, and put a little tobacco out, and asked the Creator. Well, this guy's a church guy, so he prayed to God to bless that drum, and take care of these singers, and if there's something negative around there, or maybe somebody's not doing something right, that he overlooks them so they can take care of this dance for this event. And after he did that, he went smooth. And so some say that might be just what do you call it, kind of like just a positive thought, or something like that he gave them. But again, sometimes you got to say, sometimes these things are supernatural, and somebody there was not doing something or doing something that was causing that to happen. Because that, to me, that was real freaky. Because again, you can understand maybe one, maybe even two singers, kind of lose their song, and that happens. That's kind of all right. Happens at some of these dances. But then you got 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. There's something, something not right. So again, I know things like that happen, and even today, because nowadays those dances are more about the money than it is about, what you're there for, and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I do know, things like that still happen today. And what was crazy is, when we'd have breaks, people was kind of talking about that, who wasn't living right, or who was doing this, or who was doing that, and I was just sitting there listening. These are all these Plains tribes, so I just let them, say what they got to say. I'm just there, So I think that was pretty interesting, hearing all their comments about that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. I kind of heard of that stuff, but I'm not ever around like singers or dancers enough to, like you, have that insight, I guess. Insider information for me and Tyler. What about you, Yola? No.
He went.
He's deuced out. Somebody nudge him. He's sleeping.
He's under the table asleep. Well, we'll probably cut it here unless you guys have anything more.
Nah, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Yep. Your story is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Skipped chest and back that day.
Yeah. That was probably my leg day. No, I'm just kidding.
But so yeah, let everybody know where to follow you guys.
Oh yeah, you can follow me over at Skoden Cinema. Skoden_cinema over on Instagram. I'm also got the Pump Action podcast cooking right now. Got a few more episodes of those left to drop, and then I'm gonna get back to the native films. So yeah, you can find me over there.
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok under Christopher Honka Hill, and on Facebook, Christopher Hill. I'll also be coming to a reservation near you here pretty soon. I've got some shows lined up. We've got some storytelling events coming up in February and in March. So,
follow me at Russellmus49 on Instagram, at Okie Podcast. Follow the Unsolved Mystery of the Reservation podcast on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok at Reservation_Mysteries. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a 5-star review. Rate it, review it, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell so you know when we got a new episode coming up. And Yehola, go check him out. Go check out Warcry Podcast. Check him out on TikTok at OneManBandman918, and on Facebook you can find him Yehola Tiger. So till next time, everybody, smudge up.
Motto.